This section gives a brief introduction to the views. View belongs to the original MVVM pattern and serves as a visual representation of your data. Every view is bound to some view model and react to different data changes which happen with the view model. View and view model communicate with each other using bindings and commands. To define a view for a particular element, you should be in the element diagram. Here you double-click and select Add View. You can change the name of the newly created view. And you can have more views defined for a single element. Views are mono-behaviors, so once you save and compile, you can go to the hierarchy, add new empty game object, and drop the view scripts. In this example, I'm going to use player avatar view with a sprite renderer defined on the same game object. So view is a visual representation of the data. Once your data changes, view must react and update. That is why we need some sort of a standard way to report any data modifications. uFrame uses bindings to achieve this. If you have a view defined and you expand it, you will see a bindings add button. If you click this, you will get a list of all the available bindings. You can bind to any property, collection, or command of your view model in all the different ways. For example, standard property binding only generates a simple handler to handle the change of a certain property. Let's add this one, and save and compile. Now, if we look at the generated code, you will see that the class which corresponds to the player avatar view got a handler generated. So this method is invoked every time player condition changes, which is exactly this property. So let me drop some code to cache my sprite renderer. And make sure you use the overridden awake method to cache any components you are going to use in the bindings. So now we can easily start creating some visual logic here. Let me add a switch label for the value and generate the labels. Now when my player is alive, I'm going to set the color to green. Else I'm going to set color to red. Now back to the scene and play. You see my triangle is green because we are in the alive condition. I can change those right from the inspector, and you see that the handler works. At this point we know how to report changes from the view model to the view. But how do we go back? How can we report something from the view to the view model? For this, we can use commands. Let me drop in some code which will draw a button called die. If you remember, in my diagram I have a command called die. That is why on my view I got a special method generated, which is called execute die. It does nothing more than executing this command on the view model which this view is bound to. Now in the player controller, I can override die method and set my player condition to dead. Now back to the scene and play. I have this button here. As soon as I click it, my state is changed. View components serve to make your view modular. They are monobehaviors, so you can drop them as simple scripts, and you can reference them from your view. View components allow you to easily swap implementations for different parts of your view. To define a view component, you right-click on the diagram and select Add View Component. You can then link your view to this view component. And of course, you can change the name. And after you save and compile, you can drop this component to the same game object with the view. Now in the player avatar view, at any point, you can reference my component. And in my component class, you can design this component. And you can do anything you want. And here you provide some implementations for specific parts of your view, and then in the main view, you can use it